Ava Sinclair was, without a doubt, one of the most frustrating students I'd ever taught. Not because she was unintelligent. If anything, she was brighter than most of her course mates. It was because she didn't put in any effort to study. Her record in my class was abysmal at best, outright careless at worst. She has been failing all my tests in class, turning in half-done assignments, skipping lectures like attendance was optional, and making it clear she had better things to do than studying. I had dealt with difficult students before, but Ava was different. There was no defiance, no seriousness, just that quiet indifference toward her academic works. And now, she had my full attention. For all the wrong reasons. I kept staring at the picture she had sent. It was an accident. Obviously, no student in their right mind would send something like this to a professor on purpose. I should have deleted it. And yet, I was still looking at her nudes. Fuck. The image was sexy, hot, unrestrained, so effortlessly stunning that it made my cock hard. Her body was smooth, sculpted, and filled in the right places. The kind of beauty that could pull a man under before he even realized he was sinking. What the hell was I doing? I shut my eyes for a brief second, willing my pulse to slow. This was completely out of line. It was one thing to be sent an inappropriate message by mistake. It was another to keep looking at it. This wasn't me. I was strict, disciplined, the kind of professor who didn't tolerate nonsense. I had rules, damn it. And yet, here I was, violating them in the worst way possible. I clenched my fist, forcing my thoughts back in line. I needed to handle this before it spiraled into something it had no right to become, which was why I had requested to see her in my office by 9 a.m. At least, that was the plan. The knock came exactly on time. I didn't move at first, simply staring at the door. I should have been cool, calm, and collected. Instead, I felt something else, a pull I didn't want to acknowledge. I cleared my throat and straightened in my chair before saying, "Come in." The door opened, and there she was, Ava Sinclair, looking entirely too composed for someone who had just sent her professor a series of nude photographs. Her hair fell in soft waves over her shoulders, and when she finally looked at me, there was something in her eyes. Something that made my grip tighten even further. Her long, toned legs carried her inside with the kind of self-assured grace that made my grip on the desk tighten. She wore a tight-fitting blouse, tucked into a short skirt that was deemed inappropriate on campus. The fabric clung to her curves, accentuating the swell of her breasts, the deep V of her neckline offering a teasing glimpse of her soft, barely contained flesh. She moved and the blouse shifted. The faintest press of lace from her bra was visible beneath. And that skirt. God help me, that skirt. It rode high on her thighs, and when she turned slightly to close the door, my eyes betrayed me, dipping lower. The way it hugged her hips, molding over the round curve of her ass, was indecent, yet she didn't seem the least bit aware. Or maybe she was. She shut the door behind her. "Good morning, Professor." Her voice was smooth, with the slightest tilt at the end, as if she were testing my patience. I kept my expression neutral, gesturing to the chair across from me. "Sit," she did, crossing her legs slowly, and I forced myself not to look in between her thighs. This was a mistake. I folded my hands on the desk, keeping my tone clipped and authoritative. "I'm sure you know why you're here," I said. Ava stretched her back, a hint of amusement flickering behind her eyes. "I have a pretty good guess, sir," she said. "This isn't a joke, Miss Sinclair," I said calmly. She didn't flinch. If anything, her lips curved slightly at the edges, and her tongue popped out just enough to make my restraint snap thread by thread. I should have ripped into her about professionalism, boundaries, and consequences, but all I could think about was how good that mouth would feel wrapped around my cock, the way her lips parted, teasing, like she already knew what she was doing to me. A dangerous thought slithered in before I could shut it down, grabbing her by that silky hair, yanking her to her knees, making her swallow every ounce of smug defiance. God, I needed to regain control. "Care to explain why I received an inappropriate image from you last night?" I managed to ask. To my absolute frustration, she didn't so much as react. Instead, she leaned forward slightly, resting her elbow on the desk between us, her fingers grazing her chin like she was actually thinking about it. "I think," she mused, dragging out the silence, watching me too closely, "that I might have made a mistake, Mr. Professor," she cooed. I exhaled slowly through my nose. "A mistake," I repeated flatly. She nodded, expression unreadable. "You're implying you didn't mean to send it to me?" "That's exactly what I'm implying. she said dryly. Something about her tone, her body language, the lack of remorse in her expression sent a sharp, dangerous thrill through me. I clenched my fists beneath the desk. Regardless of intention, Miss Sinclair, your actions were highly inappropriate. Were I a different kind of professor, I would have already forwarded this to the administration and let them deal with you. Her lips curved, not into a smile, but something close to it. But you didn't, she said. It wasn't a question. It was a fact. And she liked that fact. That was the last straw that broke the camel, and every ounce of willpower I had collapsed. No, I admitted, pushed my chair back, and stood, my fingers moving to my belt. I didn't, I continued, pulling it free with one slow tug. I went on to unfasten the first button on my shirt, then the next. Ava shifted on her seat, arms folding under her chest, pushing her cleavage higher. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice carrying that same teasing lilt, like she already knew the answer but wanted to hear me say it. I stepped forward, closing the space between us. "As a matter of fact, the only thing I want is to have a taste of that pink dripping pussy of yours."